Great.
Who we're talking to and what y'all maybe have kind of going on. So maybe Karen, if you want to go, we just kind of introduce you a little bit here, but I'd love to learn a little bit more about who you are, what you do in your day to day. And then I'm also curious if you've used like ChatGPT or any of those tools before.
Which Karen? We're both
Oh, there's
Karens.
two Karens. Oh my gosh. Sorry. Karen
That's right.
and Karen Wagner.
That's right. Oh, I think
I think you're muted.
Better? Okay.
There we
Sorry.
go.
Technical issues. Karen Wagner. I am the archivist for the Nebraska Capitol Collections. It is the architectural collections surrounding the design and construction of the current Capitol building. So we have architectural drawings, correspondence, photographs, artwork, and then all of the associated either architectural fragments or furnishings or objects that were all original to this building. And the chaos you're seeing behind me is the residuals of our HVAC project. When I had everything squeezed into one end of the rooms because they were working on the other end of the room. And I'm not putting anything back until they officially release my spaces. So someday I will have tables that I can use.
Karen, have you ever used any tools like ChatGPT or any of those other tools?
I have not. I don't know a whole lot about it, and I'm here to learn.
Cool. Awesome. I'll throw it maybe to the next Karen here. Oh, I think you're on mute too. The Zoom world. Nope, looks like you're stuck on mute, huh?
what I was saying is I'm trying to get somebody in. So come back to me.
Okay, all right. Shannon, Cassie, if you guys want to maybe introduce yourselves real quick for me.
Sure. Cassie Mossberg. I manage the Hall of History Museum and the historic Father Flanagan House here at Boys Town. Basically just manage the everyday things, the staff, the volunteers, oversee Shannon, who's our archivist. So she takes care of all of our collections. We've never used it before. We're really interested because our IT team here at Boys Town is going to start using a lot more AI technology and chatbots. So we're kind of wanting to know more about it, see how it works. So that way, in my situation, I can help the IT staff with things that they may need or may want to use. So just trying to understand what it is and how it works. Go, Shannon.
Hi, I'm Shannon. Karen, not Karen Wagner, other Karen. I worked with you for a little while at the Nebraska History Museum.
Oh, hi,
Shannon. Yeah, Cassie said I'm the archivist and I care for the collections. And I have used ChatGPT just at home, just kind of playing around, asking it questions, and it helped my brother write a really good cover letter once.
I love that.
Okay, so my name is Karen Kier, and I am the executive director at the American Historical Society for Germans from Russia. And I was the archivist before that. My board is very interested in exploring more with with AI. We're moving towards making, we have our online publications available online, but we are working with a company to use AI to make them more searchable, more keyword searchable. And then also we've been using them to kind of beef up our correspondence and press releases and things like that. So we're kind of dipping our toes.
Love it. I love that. So we have never used it to dip in the toe in the water today. So I'm super excited to maybe get into the weeds a little bit here. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. And I do introduce myself too as well for y'all. Give me 1 second. Let me find the correct. Ooh, that was a little premature share. Here we go. Okay, this is a similar presentation that I presented at the NMAC, Nebraska Museum Association conference. And really, my whole goal today is to help you guys maybe invite AI into your life and maybe figure out maybe one use case that you guys could kind of play around with it. I also have a couple fun like stories of people using these tools and technologies. So I'm Hunter Bergman. My full-time job is building a company called XP Marketing. XP Marketing is focused on helping pretty much provide the tools and support for medium-sized companies to help them, take their marketing efforts to the next level. So those medium-sized companies might not have a huge marketing team, so we come and support their efforts. And then in our free time, AI is really disrupting a lot of industries, specifically marketing. And so we've kind of started to develop a core competency as a team to figure out how can we use these tools and what other applications are there to have available. A little bit about myself. What kind of brought me on this journey is I love technology, and it took the internet 10 years to reach 100 million users. And the internet is really a foundational technology that we all use today. Like we couldn't probably all do our jobs without the internet. And it took 10 years for 100 million people to actually kind of adopt this technology. Well, it took ChatGPT just 2 months to reach 100 million users, which kind of blew my mind when I found that out. And I'm not saying that AI is the internet, right? And when you say AI, it means so many other different types of things. But generative AI is what ChatGPT is. And these types of tools are really changing the game on how we actually experience brands, search for coffee, or even have a therapist in your life too as well. A lot of people are using chat for a confidant. Now it's close to 1 billion users, which is even more insane to me. So many people are actually using this. And what this tells me as a marketer is it's kind of changing the way that people interact with software. Used to be you go to Google and you search for something. Now you have your personal ChatGPT who's trained to give you the information the way that you would like to see that. It's kind of your like little assistant now. So what does that mean? Robots are going to take over. This is like a photo from iRobot, which is like a Will Smith classic. I don't think that robots are going to take over quite yet, or there's some bigger, deceitful mission out there with AI. And a lot of people blow the whistle here, but I think right now it's not going to be that crazy. I think maybe in the next 10 years, we could get to some scary technologies, but I think for the most part right now, it's pretty just, write me a sentence or write me a cover letter. I don't think there's any crazy thing happening or Sonny's going to take over. So like I mentioned before, I'm Hunter Bergman. I manage XP Marketing, and then I also spun up this High AI to really help people figure out how to use AI in their life. For the past 3 years, I've been really focused on marketing and like using pitch competitions to figure out how we can kind of communicate new ideas. In October of 2024, last year, I pitched this idea of pretty much helping people, building a platform that's AI centric to help people focus on how can I use this, right? And really my whole goal of focusing on that was just to figure out how are people using ChatGPT? How can this actually make a difference in people's lives? So I started telling people about it, asking people. I think I've done probably over 250 different interviews with individuals of, how do you use ChatGPT? Why do you use it? Where do you use it? And I've seen a bunch of different case studies as well as my own self, really kind of building out my personal life around some of these tools to just tinker around with. And really my today's goal is to help, say hi to your AI assistant and walk away knowing exactly where to use it in your organization. And so when I say AI, it means so many different things. But currently, right now, artificial intelligence is really just a tool that learns from patterns to help you do stuff faster. And so what ChatGPT is it's a large language model that's trained on a bunch of things, right? But there's 3 types of AI right now. There's reactive, which there's like a calculator or spell checker is like a reactive form of artificial intelligence. Predictive AI is like Netflix. If you're watching a lot of space movies, it's going to, show you space movies, whatever that looks like. Or your Facebook algorithm is going to feed you all the garbage on Facebook that it can. And then the last one is generative, right? So ChatGPT is a form of generative AI. And generative AI is really just creating words, images, even video now from scratch. There's a couple, other use cases here. So this is like a chatbot. This is just maybe how a chatbot works. We've all seen and interact with chatbots. That's like a very simple use case of where that you could use AI in your kind of everyday life. There's this thing also called retrieval augmented generation, which I think other Karen, not Karen Wagner, that company that you guys are partnering with is probably using to make your documents more searchable. What this is, you have a bunch of text documents, so highly technical documents that maybe you want to figure out. You don't want to just search for those documents. You can build this tool and you can say, there's an example is like HR companies. So what's my HR policy, or what's my policy for taking days off? You could kind of search and it will kind of scan through your documents and kind of provide an answer back to you on what your HR or your days off policy, or what are grounds of getting fired, whatever you might be searching for in your HR policies. This last thing is what we call an agent, right? So agents are like the new thing. Like this is like what people are like, oh, it's like the internet all over again. And agents are a tool that can connect to other like tools to help you take action, right? And so on this chart here, we have a user, we have your agent, and it's connected to maybe like your database of documents, maybe other local files on your computer, other sensors, sensors being maybe like more triggers. So, hey, when I trigger, hey, I want to, when I want to write a press release that triggers, and, it can write a press release and then I can audit it, or whatever that looks like. But all an agent is designed for now is to take action, right? And so I'll actually do a demo of ChatGPT's agent. They have a functionality there that's pretty crazy, but really this is kind of like what people are really probably going the most crazy about right now in terms of trends and how these tools work. And so we all asked you guys real quick about ChatGPT, but I'm just curious to hear from anybody else in the group if you guys have used it for something specific. I know a few of y'all kind of downloaded it and used it at home, but curious if anybody else has maybe used this or created some efficiencies in their life, just whoever's on the chat. I know we're all on mute. Maybe I'll share a few examples of maybe how I've used this in like my personal life in ChatGPT. We talked a little bit about, types of AI, and we talked about what ChatGPT is, and really what I've kind of been tinkering around with is I use it for like meeting summaries. That's super helpful. I use another tool called otter.ai. And I honestly no longer take meeting notes. I'm a scribbler, so I do scribble, but pretty much every meeting I'm in now, my Otter will join. And then I'll take that transcript from the meeting and throw it into my ChatGPT, and it can kind of learn, my meeting style. Maybe I missed something, or maybe my tonality was slightly off, or maybe I failed to communicate something. So I use it to kind of eval some meetings. I also use it for my personal finances to help me kind of figure out how to calibrate that budget, and some of those things. So pretty amazing what it can do. I'm curious, Shannon and Cassie, do you guys have any use cases that you'd want to maybe share with the group that you're kind of tinkered around with?
Good. I don't know exactly what I can say, but if somebody wanted to put words in one of our directors' mouths, do you know what I mean? That's kind of concerning. The whole using your voice. We have older volunteers, and they tell me they constantly get phone calls saying, "Grandma, I'm in jail." And I know that isn't the same thing, but my worry is, how is this going to use our voices potentially against us, even as an organization?
You make a great point there. And I think a lot of the ethical concerns, honestly, I'm not even concerned. I'm concerned about my face and actually creating a video of me too as well, which is amazing, right? I mean, honestly, anything you see on Facebook, you should always assume that it's fake from now on after this call. Assume everything is fake until otherwise clarified from that. which is honestly really concerning as well. I totally agree with you. And honestly, that's where it comes to like some policy things, right? Just from a policy and government standpoint, we need like data privacy. And now we're going to need some sort of like AI tags on Facebook. So really, it's kind of up to big tech to take the first step and say, hey, this is AI generated, right? Just in our general life. Hackers are always going to be hackers, right? Scammers are always going to figure out a way to get a nickel from people, right? And so I think that's where education and literacy comes into play. If you guys don't have like a family code word yet as well, that's another thing that a lot of people use, just in general right now. I actually spent a lot of time with my grandma, and she has gotten calls saying, oh, Hunter, I'm in jail, please wire me money. And it's now, if it can sound like me and if it could look like me, now we have a really big problem. And so totally here with what you're saying. I think I'll push that to the legislative, side of this thing. Is like, what is legal now, right? That's going to kind of change the game. And what are the ramifications of using that? I know that scamming is definitely, I'm sure there's some legality concerns there, but even data privacy. We as the United States has a very lack of data privacy issues that really do affect us, just in general. It's not AI. The ability to pretty much, if you land on my website, I can track you everywhere you go, pretty much. Or if you connect to my Wi-Fi, say you're at Shopco and you connect to Shopco's Wi-Fi, Shopco can pretty much read everything that you've been searching on your phone. They can use your cookies. And that's how, if you're on Facebook, it can show you what you're thinking about sometimes, right? And so there's more than just maybe the AI concern there, but you totally hit a good point about the ethics and concerns of those things, which it's kind of the wild west now. So it's going to take some legislation, but also just education and literacy around what to look for, and how to kind of combat those things. That was kind of a grandstand. Hopefully, did that answer your question, Shannon, by chance?
Yeah,
I think that went a little deep.
It did. I think, my parents have been scammed quite a bit. And as much as I try to teach them not to, they fall prey to it every time because it's my face or my voice or what have you. So thank you for addressing that. I think as an organization, that is something that we also have to think about. When you're part of an organization that has, say, one person like Father Flanagan, who's associated with our organization, he's long since passed away. What can happen with his face, his voice?
Yeah, and I meet those concerns with like I mentioned before, it is kind of the wild west. I think exactly what you're bringing up, Shannon, though, is why it's so important for our organizations to adopt these like AI policies and stances, and communicate those with them, because it starts with education and literacy. What are these tools? How are they being used? What should you look for? What are common practices of people scamming these things? How do we prevent, the name, image, and likeness things? And how do we communicate this to our internal staff, right? Now, we might not have a ton of people in our organizations on the call now using these things, but imagine if you have a company of 100, or even just 5 people, 1 or 2 people using those things, they could accidentally leak data on accident if they're not sure, what they're doing. They could leak even some sensitive information about themselves that they maybe didn't understand how to use the platform or what that looked like. And so there are definitely some concerns, and that's where I just meet it with the education and literacy first, and then rely on maybe the the politicians to protect us from the legal standpoint.
And maybe you can talk about the positives, so I don't have just a fully negative view of AI at this point.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, let's get into the good stuff. Yeah, I totally agree with you. And so we talked about, like, definitely the ethic and compliance piece, right? And sliding over into like the good stuff, exactly what you're saying. So to learn a little bit more about what ChatGPT is and how it's used. ChatGPT is a conversational agent. So it's using natural language to talk back and forth with you. And it's built on a large language model, which means it's trained on the English language, and it knows what vocabulary and how to define certain things, right? You pretty much chat with it like a person. It writes and edits to generate content back and forth with you. And so how ChatGPT is powered is if you printed everything ChatGPT was trained on, you'd need over like 300,000 books. That's more than like 30 miles of bookshelf space. And now people are probably going to ask about copyright. That's a whole other, thing in this space right now that is pretty large. A lot of these models that are being trained on now are using or have pretty much deals with, specific companies to use and train their models on those data. But the cool stuff is though, people with ChatGPT users write 40% faster with 18% better results. And so writing those press releases, writing emails, drafting up social media posts. I'm sure if you're a social media manager for a company, it's such a grind. So, doing things faster is really, Shannon, to your point of where the value of these tools are going to come into place. I have more of a marketing background. So what I'm going to talk a lot about right now is more of the marketing sense. So really, it's so easy to do newsletters, emails, social posts, event copy, plans. When I actually gave my speech at the Nebraska Museum Association conference, we actually did a whole case study together. I grabbed a gal in the front row and I was like, let's actually do this thing together, which we'll do in just a second. And I asked, let's do an event. What event are we planning? And all natural language I just had on the chat feature. And we talked back and forth with it. And it created an event title, description, marketing campaign. It created all the marketing assets for those things. So descriptions, emails. Now, again, you want to make sure you go through and audit those things. But, for it to really pretty much be able to create your event marketing and your entire schedule and operational schedule, it's pretty amazing to do. Obviously, you need to kind of fine tune those things. But Shannon, to your point is that we won't be stuck in Google Docs forever again in consistently writing these things, which it'll be pretty much how do we go from 0 to 1? And then how do we as individuals come in and just craft it and make sure that it has our specific brand and flavor to it. And so this is just kind of like a breakdown. I'm just going to jump off here real quick and just actually open up my ChatGPT right now. Again, I know that, Shannon, we were talking generally earlier about the dangers of AI, right? And so I'm not going to jump into a bunch of all those other tools at the moment here. I just want to focus on ChatGPT and the value that it's brought to like our organization and how you guys could maybe potentially see some value in it. So I just want to walk you through chat right now and its features, and then I want to actually get some collaboration in here. So I want us to work together, maybe toss something in the chat of like what you could maybe like try to see it do, and then we'll do like a collaborative workshop together. So when you first open up ChatGPT, you're going to see this like chat window here. So you have a chat window here. You can dictate things. So you can like text to speech, or it has like voice mode where you have a conversation with it. And then on the left-hand side here, these are what we call GPTs. And so GPTs are like kind of trained assistants, right? So I actually created this museum like AI discovery guide for that Nebraska Museum Association conference. And really, I pretty much taught it on, how to be a marketer for a museum, right? And so it's kind of trained on, what the plan is, how we do things, et cetera, et cetera. So it'll give you a little bit more of a direct feedback on, as the museum. I also have like some sales coach. I do a lot of sales in my business. ClickUp, that we use that for project management. So I have ClickUp GPT to help me like use that as a project manager. If we get out of a meeting and we have like 100 tasks, or let's say 10 tasks for a website, I can just dump this into my ClickUp GPT and it will help build like Gantt charts, project schedules, workflows, automations too as well in ClickUp. That's super helpful for us. I also have this personal executive assistant, and running my other company, I manage about I think I manage probably 6 different individuals, and so this helps me continue to be a better leader. I actually trained it on my strengths, weaknesses, blind spots, and so I can actually feed in like if I have a direct conversation with an individual that maybe is a hard conversation, I can actually train for that conversation with him. And then I'll also feed him that conversation afterward, and he'll give me an analysis of, hey, you actually did a great job doing this, but like, here are a few things that you should do differently next time. And so it can get to know my leadership style, and it can get to know, how maybe I would approach things or solve problems. It also can see things that maybe I wouldn't see, right? Because I have kind of a narrow focus on these things. It can say, hey, actually, did you think about this? I also trained it on all my teams, like strengths and weaknesses. We do like the Gallup Clifton strengths assessment. And so, it knows what Gage's like top 5 are and how maybe I should communicate with Gage. And I also have all these other projects in here that I can, pretty much, for example, we helped do some consulting for a nonprofit, and we came in here and pretty much fed it all these files. And so these are their like executive summaries, their sponsorships, and all these things. And I can feed it this to actually have conversations about, the organization and maybe how that works. So that's just like a quick rundown of some of those things here. If we look at the actual chat here, so there's a couple things that we can do. So the new GPT-5 has a couple items for us. So you can hook it up to your Google Drive so that you can add Google Documents into here, or if you have Microsoft, you can add Microsoft Documents in here. It has agent mode, which we'll actually demo with this to you guys today. In agent mode, will actually go out and conduct research and come back and like provide stuff with you. It can also create slide decks, documents, and a bunch of other things that we'll kind of demo today. You can also connect other apps to it. And so you can connect HubSpot, GitHub, Dropbox, Canva, Box, and there's a bunch of other things you can kind of connect to this tool to help you with your operations and workflow. It can do deep research. Deep research is something I use a lot when I'm starting to like learn more about a company or how it can use things. So, if I'm in a space that I'm unfamiliar with, I say, hey, let's go do deep research on how nonprofits should operate. And it will come back and give me kind of technical and cited sources of how a nonprofit should maybe operate, right? So it'll give me maybe an operational plan, templates, tools, other things that I should know about to take into consideration. It can also create images. We'll do an image generation, demo here too as well. It also has like search the web, so it can search the web for items. Canvas is pretty much its like document system, so you can use Canvas to actually like create documents, and you could highlight something and say, this doesn't sound right, make it sound more like this, and it will kind of update that. Study and learn is another cool feature that they just rolled out with. So if I'm like, learning all about nonprofits, I can actually hit study and learn, and it will teach me, about, how nonprofits work, what are the legalities of it, how should it operate, what's the board structure, what should that be? And I can continue to study and learn to improve my knowledge on those things. So that's kind of a quick walkthrough here. I'm going to go ahead and make sure my voice is shared here, and we're going to go ahead and just do a quick demo, if that's cool with you guys. First, is there any questions about maybe what I just kind of jammed through? Oops, there we go. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and do an example here. If you guys have anything you want to try in the chat, but let's go with creating a marketing strategy for a museum. And so when you're doing prompting, so there's a whole new thing now called prompt engineering. And so when you're typing in here, like create a strategy, strategy for my museum to reach my target audience. So this is a prompt, and you can actually, get better at those things. I actually have an expert prompt generator that I can actually have it like create a prompt so that you get a better output. Again, I'll remind everybody that these things are just designed for pattern recognition. And so the better of a prompt you give it, the more likely it's going to match the pattern that you're looking for with the pattern that it has in itself. So if I, feed it to the expert prompt generator, it's going to go ahead and do a very more well-defined prompt here. So that's just an example of cooking that. I want to show you all the voice feature here though, real quick. I'm going to see if I can use it with, sometimes it won't let me use it with, there we go. Hey chat, can you hear me?
Absolutely. I can hear you loud and clear. Let me know what you need.
Awesome. Hey, I actually was just, I'm giving a presentation on how museums can potentially leverage ChatGPT in their organization. Can you actually help me prepare like a really cool demo on ways that, we could potentially use AI in their business? And also, could you actually maybe conduct a little bit of research on, how other museums currently in the world are using this?
Absolutely. I'd love to help you craft a really cool demo and pull together some examples of how museums are leveraging AI. Let's break it down into two parts. Crafting the AI demo for museums. For your demo, we can focus on a few practical use cases that are both engaging and relevant. For example, virtual tour guides and interactive exhibits. Imagine showing how ChatGPT can act as a conversational guide. Visitors could ask questions about an exhibit and get detailed, engaging answers. You could demo a simple scenario where someone asks about an artifact and the AI provides a mini history lesson. Personalized recommendations and visitor engagement. Show how the AI can suggest exhibits, upcoming events, or related museum content based on a visitor's interests. This could be as simple as asking the AI, I love the dinosaur exhibit. What should I see next? And having it respond with tailored suggestions.
Hey, thanks, Shay. I appreciate you doing some of that hard work. I kind of want to get to some cool stuff here. Can you go ahead? I'm actually planning a stakeholder event to bring in my community to my museum to really just showcase a new exhibit, right? So the event is October 26th. Of 2025, and I need your help to actually build an entire marketing strategy and a timeline that I can communicate to my team so that we can kind of delegate and divide and conquer on this work. Can you go ahead and ask me maybe 5 questions? Let's answer it one by one so that you can have the best context so that we can actually build this event, title, description, and then a promotional strategy, including, tasks that I can delegate to my workers.
Absolutely. Let's build that out step by step. I'll start by asking you the first question and we'll go from there. Question 1, event goals and audience. To kick things off, can you tell me a bit about the main goals of the stakeholder event? For example, are you mainly aiming to generate excitement about the new exhibit, secure funding or donations, or build?
I'm actually really excited to invite the Norfolk community into the local Elkhorn Valley Museum and showcase a new Johnny Carson exhibit. And I really my goal there is to just introduce the Norfolk community into the impact of Johnny and like why we got this exhibit in the first place. So I just want to communicate his story and the value that Elkhorn Valley Museum can have to Norfolk.
Perfect. That gives me a great starting point. Let's move on to the next question to get a bit more detail. Question 2, event details and format. Can you share how you envision the format of the event? For example, will it be a one evening reception, a weekend open house, or a more formal presentation with a speaker lineup? That'll help us figure out the timeline. And
like 3 options for me on, what that event could potentially look like.
Absolutely. I can give you a few different formats to consider and you can pick the one that feels right. Option 1, evening or section with keynote. This is a one evening event, let's say a Friday night from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Format, guests arrive and mingle with light refreshments.
Hey, you know what?
You give a welcoming.
That sounds great. Let's lock in that first option and let's go to the next question.
Absolutely. We'll lock in the evening reception with the keynote. That should set a really nice tone for the event. Question 3, key messages and storyline. Now let's talk about the core message. What are the key points you really want to communicate during the event? For example, are there specific stories about Johnny Carson you want to highlight or certain aspects of why this exhibit is meaningful to the Norfolk community? This will help us shape the promotional content.
Could you actually do research on Johnny Carson and the Elkhorn Valley Museum? And then could you actually provide me a few ideas of like what that messaging could look like? You don't have to execute this now. I'll use the deep research tool in just a second, if that's okay with you.
Got it. I pulled up a bit of info on the Johnny Carson exhibit at the Elkhorn Valley Museum, and here's what we can shape from that. Messaging ideas for the event. 1, celebrating a local legend. Frame the event as a heartfelt celebration of Johnny Carson, who was born in Corning, Iowa, but grew up in Norfolk. Emphasize that this is about honoring a hometown hero who went on to become a television icon.
For the sake of time, let's go ahead and lock that in. And let's actually go ahead into generating the event title, description, operational plan, and a timeline with tasks to actually make this successful.
Absolutely. Let's pull it all together into a cohesive plan. Okay, event overview and title. Event title, An Evening with Johnny, celebrating Norfolk's favorite entertainer. Join us at the Elkhorn Valley Museum on October 26, 2025, for a special evening celebrating the legacy of Johnny Carson. Discover the impact of Norfolk's own TV legend through our new exhibit, enjoy keynote stories, and connect with the community over refreshments. Let's honor Johnny's legacy together. Operational plan and timeline. Key tasks and timeline. Initial planning and team assignments, 3 to 4 months out. Task, assign roles for catering, invitations, exhibit setup, and tech support. Deadline by end of June 2025.
All right. Back to my my friends here on the Zoomer. So really, what I just kind of demoed with you was just that conversationality of how you could potentially even just chat back and forth to get like a plan here. As you can see, chat was actually cooking up that operational plan and timeline here, and then I kind of cut him off just for the sake of time here. So that was just one quick example of how you can use a couple of those features. I want to underline a few things that I did here in this conversation. I asked him to, do the AI demo. What could we do? Then when we went into the actual event logistics, I said, hey, ask me a couple questions to learn more about what I'm trying to achieve. And that's a really important process of like working with these models, is you have to give it as much context as you can to really actually give it to get it good results with you. So you can say, ask me 10 clarifying questions. You can say, hey, give me like 5 clarifying questions, but also include A, B, and C for those, so that you can just choose A, B, and C. And there's a variety of things, right? Now we can say generate. Let's do image creation. Generate a promotional graphic for this event. Again, like I mentioned before, you can go really deep into like prompt engineering here, so that you could get as detailed as what colors are in this, what is the composition, so like what is inside of the picture. You could get super specific on style, creative, styles. Do you want it like a Renaissance, or do you want it like modern, or do you want it more, like marketing and salesy? You can kind of really guide the direction and style of that, just based on that like natural language prompt. But just for this initial like go through, I'm just going to kind of demo that piece here for us. While this kind of loads here, the images take a little bit to generate. I'm curious if you guys have any more comments in the chat, or any other like maybe use cases that you could maybe like want to ask about, or maybe other things that it could accomplish while this thing generates.
I've been curious about using ChatGPT to transcribe handwritten manuscripts. Try to make some of the stuff in my archive a little more accessible.
Yeah, that's interesting. So would transcribing that, is it in a different language, or is it like handwritten?
Handwritten by quite possibly the worst penmanship I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, unfortunately, some algorithms actually would be able to help you with that. However, I don't think ChatGPT is intelligent enough, I would say, to be able to understand and make those things out. Now, if you had a manuscript, in Russian that was typed up, it could definitely translate those things for you. Like if you had like a PDF, you could like upload it, and then it would transcribe that entire PDF for you. That would be maybe a use case that would look like. But unfortunately, it can't. I don't think it can even read my handwriting sometimes. So, yeah. So everybody watching here, this is just an example of the type of images that it can generate, which honestly, it's getting better. Originally it could not get like spelling right, or some of those things right, but it got like the date right. It got some of these other pieces here. And then you can also come in here and actually you can actually like say, let's find a more fun picture of Johnny here. I'm even surprised it found that image. I'm not even sure where it came here from, but you could even click on that and say, let's find a better, more fun picture of Johnny on set. And so then it'll kind of go ahead and work through, that change there. So yeah, and so we kind of demoed a couple different things for everybody here. We demoed the like chat back and forth feature. We demoed some of that like prompting. So like ask me questions, follow a specific process to achieve an outcome. And also, generating kind of like a plan or strategy. If we wanted to keep going, we could also have it generate an entire like spreadsheet. If you guys are spreadsheet people, you can generate like a CSV file and upload it to a spreadsheet so that you can actually track those tasks, timelines, and days by assignee. Yeah, so that's just kind of a variety of things that you can do with ChatGPT. Again, it's saved, from a marketing standpoint of our team. We work with a variety of different clients, and so we actually, use GPTs for each client so that it knows our strategy, it knows our tone and voice, our brand, and all those things, so that it can give us the best like outcome, right? One of the things that I see that I want to educate everybody on is making sure that you give it your own flavor. One of the things that I get concerned about is now we just have people just like generating just a bunch of garbage into the world. And so what I tell people is garbage in, garbage out. So the more you feed it, the more quality of information you feed it, the better quality of information that you're going to get out of that in the long run. And so the better prompting you do, the more you feed it about yourself, the better it's going to know how to kind of create the information you want. Shannon, back to your point, it's really important to have even an educational conversation with individuals who are using ChatGPT, because there are opportunities where you can actually share this. You can actually share your chat. I'll show you here. You can share this chat, and you can also make this link public. And so, sometimes there's actually a big thing that just happened where people shared these links, but they didn't realize they were public. And actually Google ended up scraping those links. And so Google was you're able to say, find information about whatever was in those conversations just through Google, right? So that's why it's really important to make sure that people are aware of how to use these tools, and just to make sure that you can prevent any like data leakage on those things. So you can see he updated this. That was kind of a fun thing. So yeah, so that's just another example, just ethics and like compliance on data here. Everything that you feed this, it's again, they can see and understand it and read and write to. In terms of them actually using your data to train their models, they actually don't use you can actually go in and check the box in the settings so that when you're using ChatGPT, it does not take your information and train the next kind of GPT models on that, right? Which is really important for me, because for our clients, we're working with kind of sensitive data. Sometimes we have like NDAs in place. Sometimes we have NDAs in place, so that it's like we're working like top secret information. We cannot risk getting like, data leakage there. So that's where we have a policy at XPM, to make sure that, we're using this in the proper ways and we're not sharing links publicly. And so just the training on that front. So, yeah, so that was a little bit about what ChatGPT is and can do. ChatGPT is just one tool out of a bunch of other tools. And so, it is the biggest, and right now they're kind of winning what they call the LLM wars, against like Google and Claude and a couple of these other organizations. But there is actually one tool that I want to demo for you guys before we go here. It's 15. I want to demo this agent tool, because this agent tool is pretty snazzy. And it's honestly the thing that like separates, why this is super valuable. Shannon, I'll really kind of articulate the value prop here for you. So put together a slide deck that has all this information about the Johnny Carson event, so that I can present this to my board and get feedback on the creative copy, messaging, and timeline of execution. Yeah, so you can do that. And then the difference between the agent and a regular, like a regular thing, is this guy is actually going to do some thinking now. It's actually going to come in here and it's going to set up what they call a desktop. And so it's going to set this up, and then Chat is actually going to set up kind of honestly like a remote computer that it can access and then create things on top of. So this is how it's able to do slide decks, reports. It can do research. If you wanted to say, hey, Chat, go out into the world and analyze every single Native American exhibit in the United States and what their messaging is, and then help me synthesize that and maybe guide me on maybe some of the messaging points that I should use. That's a very difficult, tough example. Maybe I think I could have added a couple more details there, but to showcase that you can have a comprehensive, like research kind of brief for Chat to go out and actually really conduct some real research. When you use deep research, it will only use like credible links, right? And then it will also pull those credible links up for you in a so that you can actually research, hey, is this real? Is this not real? Et cetera, et cetera. So right now you can see my agent's computer. It's actually reading Elkhorn Valley's website. It also is now creating the actual searching for images right now for Johnny Carson that we can use. And then it's also then generating that PowerPoint through this thing. So it takes a little bit for this to actually kind of run, and you'll actually get a notification on your cell phone that, hey, your agent has finished its search. Because, really you want to run this and kind of go away and do whatever else you're doing. And then you can kind of come back and continue to kind of chat back and forth with what we have going on.
Hunter, can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
So what is preventing the AI from using websites like, say, Wikipedia, which aren't always appropriate or vetted? How do we know that it's researching on valid sources?
Shannon, you make an absolutely great point. Again, what I was coming back to is that garbage in, garbage out. So if you give it zero expectation of the sources that you should be like citing, like I did, I just said, go find whatever, and it was just going to do the thing. And so if you actually prompt it and say, hey, I want you to only use like these types of sources. And again, you can actually say, you can work back and forth with it. Hey, Chat, how do I make sure that these sources are the ones that I make sure that are research worthy, right? If I was going to write a collegiate paper, I probably wouldn't use Wikipedia as a source, so you can actually train it and like ask it to go find those specific ones for that specific purpose. Now, I didn't use the deep research feature. So when you saw Wikipedia, he's just going for photos and what are what's called public domain information. So it's going to go on and find public domain info. Yeah, so I could have done the deep research, and the deep research will actually find like credible sources that you can cite, if that makes more sense. So yeah, good questions though. That's where really there's two things that I really want to kind of land my kind of speech here on is prompt engineering and context engineering. Prompt engineering is where you really are working with it to understand, follow 1, 2, 3, 4. Follow that chain of process, or hey, here's the information that I want you to find and collect. You really want to give it as much information as possible so that it can give you the best, right? That garbage in, garbage out philosophy. The second thing I was just mentioning was the context engineering. How do you always get these tools to know exactly what you want out of it, right? So, ensuring that you have a proper brief, right? You take some time to set up that brief, so that you can feed the AI and say, hey, this is your brief, this is your mission. I want you to go out and find X, Y, and Z on those things. And so context engineering is really important when it comes to what kind of verbiage you want back, what tonality. Do you want professional? Do you want casual? Even formatting. You can actually have him format things specifically the way that you would like to. When you're doing prompt engineering, there's a couple things called like a no shot, one shot, two shot, and few shot. When I say those words like no shot, one shot, it's just saying how many examples did you provide that tool to make its decision on? So if I say, hey, write me a research paper that follows like this criteria, you can add in another research paper that you've written before and say, this is an example of what I want you to create, right? Again, we're going for pattern recognition. So the more patternable things that you can give it, the better the outcome is going to be for that said research paper or the game plan or whatever you would like to create in that process. So that was kind of a variety of things that we kind of went through here. I think that was pretty much what I wanted to leave y'all with. I would say, get a free ChatGPT account and just mess with it and just, see what it's capable of. Because some of the things that I've heard people use it for, it's amazing. When I actually demoed this at the Nebraska Museum Association conference, there was a gal in the back who actually, during my presentation, downloaded ChatGPT. And at the end, she stood up and she said, I just want to tell everybody that this is going to save me so much time. I have to write the little cards for all the museum exhibits. And I honestly spend so much time doing that. Now I can just do that at scale. I can say, write a description that's this length for all of these exhibits, and it can just do that. And then you can copy and paste it and print those out to where you want to go. And so that was a really cool use case for a museum. Like she got right away, and that was cool to kind of hear some of those use cases. There was a few other opportunities that some individuals came and talked to me a little bit about there, but I want to take some more time and maybe answer any questions, comments, or any other concerns that maybe arose during our conversation here.
I have a question that's probably very specific to my organization. We publish quite a few like translated birth, death, marriage records. So they've been translated. In the workflow, one of the things that takes the longest time is one, formatting it for the book or in the Excel spreadsheet for the book. And then two, creating the index. So saying, this is where you find that on this line is where you find the surname. Is that something we could train AI to do for us to help speed up this process?
Absolutely. I would totally say yes. Anything that requires what I'll kind of break down here real quick for y'all is workflows are really important now, right? So it's like exactly what you just told me, Karen, not Karen Wagner, exactly what you just told me. If you write out your workflow for how you actually create those things and then feed it to chat and say, hey, chat, here's my workflow. How can you help me actually do this 10 times faster? It will actually work with you to create a solution on how you can use ChatGPT to speed that process up, right? So it might be doing part of that process or the entire process. The thing that you have to watch out for are hallucinations. Now, these LLMs can hallucinate, right? And that's a weird thing to say, right? But hallucination means that it's making stuff up. And so if you don't feed it the correct information to say, hey, do not pull any fake information, only use this information that I give you here to create those records, it won't hallucinate, right? Or it will mitigate it. You're never going to eliminate all hallucinations out of these like tools, but you can really mitigate that by providing as much criteria and rules and regulations as possible, and then also feeding it like clear outcomes, right? So that's the last maybe buzzword or vocabulary term we'll learn today is hallucinations. But yeah, that hopefully that answered your question.
It does.
Karen, you can also even, because you're probably putting input into a spreadsheet and that spreadsheet has the columns for everything. So you could even feed it the spreadsheet to analyze that data on too as well. So it can work with Google Sheets. You could just plug it right in or a CSV file as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Good question though. Anybody else have any other questions for us while we have about, 4 or 5 minutes left? April White, I think that we got a chance to meet at the NMA conference. Was that correct? Good to see you again.
We did, yes. It's so nice to see you again, Hunter. Sorry I was a few minutes late getting in here and everything, but thank you so much for all of this. This has been super exciting. I will fully admit that I'm a little behind on all of this kind of stuff, but I think it is kind of a common thread that a lot of us are just kind of really uncertain and hesitant, but I think that just comes with any sort of new tech that, kind of stuff. But also, we hear all the kind of like doom and gloom that kind of comes with AI possibly. But thank you so much for this presentation, because I think you do an excellent job of presenting it in a way that's like, wait, you mean this could mean less work for me? Okay, now I like AI. Like now I'm getting it, like, so I think that's really cool. So yeah, especially like the one that you did at the like towards the beginning, like middle of your presentation about the museum AI tool, the one on the side there that you showed. I think that's really cool that we can kind of create like, like just brand packages, even if we wanted to, that we could refer back to and adjust as needed and stuff. I think this is really great. So thank you again so much for presenting at the conference and for doing this again. I think AI is going to play a big part in museums moving forward. I really do. So, or at least a part. Not sure
Well, and
what that
and
scale looks like.
April,
But
I feel like the thing is always so much work, not enough like team, like not enough
Mhm.
manpower, right?
Yep,
And so I
absolutely.
really think that's exactly where these tools are going to help, like organizations like ours on this call out is, we just don't have the staff to do the thing.
Yeah,
And I think this is really going to help us be able to. What my team says is we're not going to hire anybody else. It's like, who are we building? Like, what roles are we building out right now, and what workflows are we doing for efficiency? So the
yep,
maybe the last thing that I want to leave y'all with in April, you kind of hit it right on the head, is be curious about these tools. Like actually like use, be the early adopter, right? Because if you get in there and you're just asking it questions or silly questions or, all these fun ideas, just get in there and just use it and tinker around with it. That's how you're really gonna be able to stay ahead of the curve, is just by tinkering, right? We've kind of went back into this era of learning by doing. You think of the kids who are going to college right now, they're not prepared to, use ChatGPT on all their research papers or whatever, so learn by doing. Get curious. What could this possibly do? And what other things that are out there that are kind of creating these innovations? AI is moving at the speed of light right now. And lots of money are being invested into it. There probably is an AI bubble similar to the internet bubble and .com bubble, but I think that these tools are evolving so much so fast that it could change next week, right? Something could come out that would change the game next week. So the more you pay attention and stay up to date on those things and just tinker around, the more proficient you're going to be. And if you get on your phone, you can just talk to text, and it's my buddy. It helps me out through whatever in the day. So that's kind of my last spiel. Stay curious and stay fun. So if there's anything else, I really would love to offer my contact information for anybody. I love doing workshops or education on literacy, like workshops for anybody. So shoot me an email if you'd like. Karen can maybe share that with the crew, but I'll also toss it in the chat here. Shoot me an email, connect with me on LinkedIn or the socials, fire a note away. Happy to have a one-on-one Zoom with you if you have like a use case that you want to kind of pilot out a little bit more, or if you want me to maybe do more of like a workshop for your team. Happy to do that for free for y'all on the call today, just because I'm very passionate about education and literacy, and that's where we start on this next kind of boom. So appreciate you guys for having me. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the week. Shannon, Cassie, I'm not sure if Cassie's available anymore, but it was nice to meet y'all. Karen and other Karen, thank you so much for coming to hang out as well.
Well, thank you, Hunter. We really appreciate you presenting this for me. And again, this recording will be shared, uploaded to the NMA website. I know I'm going to send it to my board members and my staff so they can kind of get more enthused about it. Just a couple of things. Next month, monthly musing is going to be school-led experiences with Katie Carr from the Hastings Museum. So that's exciting. And October is going to be risk assessment with Liz Boutin. Sorry. And also I've started planning for 2026. So if you have any ideas or want to give a presentation, Karen, please shoot me an email. Thank you again, everybody, and have a great weekend.
TJF. See everybody.